Welcome back, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And today we're going to talk about how to get your first cloud architect job, your first solution architect job, your first cloud engineering job, because I want to help you all get cloud hired. For those of you that don't know me, I've been working in technology for more than 25 years. I've been an architect for about 25 years now. Network architect, enterprise architect, cloud architect, solution architect. I've done all the roles, and it's been fun, fun, fun. And I've spent more than 2 decades helping people build their technology careers in terms of either getting hired or getting promoted. And I want to help you all get cloud hired. I hope you all had fun last night hearing from Delroy Batt, an amazing, fine young man that we worked with. He came to us with zero technology background. He was working as an EMT, and we helped him get his first cloud security architect job, and he's super, super happy. Last night, you can catch the show on the YouTube channel. To let you know some really wonderful things we're doing to help you with your career, and so many of these are actually free. We have the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp this week, and we start at the bare beginning level, and we work up almost to the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional level of depth in this course. Why? Because I want you to know what you need. I want you guys to have some knowledge and capabilities. So if you haven't joined us yet for the free AWS Bootcamp this week, sign up now. My team will pop the link to this in the chat box so you can sign up. And you can catch up on the replay of yesterday's boot camp and then catch up for the whole live week. It'll be fun, 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 and good quality training. So make sure that you're there, and you can get it completely free. While you're at it, sign up for the free lab, sign up for the free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and Professional ebook. Sign up. It's all free. Now, tomorrow, we're going to have our famous How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. We get people hired every single day as cloud architects, solution architects, enterprise architects, cloud engineers, and we want to help you. So come to us on this free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar, and I will tell you how to leverage your past experience in life, regardless of what it is, to show the hiring manager your experience. And I don't care if you worked in mental health, or were a program manager, or were an accountant, or working as a waiter, or we're working as a geologist, like we have some people, we can get you hired, and we do it every single day. But part of that is showing how your experience is actually relevant to the future world. So there's that. I'll tell you what needs to be on your resume. I'll tell you how to skip the pesky HR people that are going to block you when you don't have a background. I'll tell you the exact things you need to know to be good at your job and get hired for your job, not somebody else's. It'll be fun, fun, fun. And I'll even tell you what the hiring managers dream about. That's why I've never been in an interview that I can think of that I didn't get an offer. I've interviewed for 5 or 6 companies, and I've got interviews and offers from all of them. Not because there's anything special about me, but I know what the customer wants, because I've interviewed thousands of hiring managers and thousands of recruiters over the years and said, what do you want in the perfect employee? And I've got a master list, and we produce the perfect employees, and they get hired constantly. And I want to help you, and I'm going to tell you this, what you need to know on this free webinar. Now, our students don't apply for jobs. As you can see, if you were here last night, Delroy's biggest problem was telling recruiters while I was in my training program, I'm not ready to be hired yet. That was his biggest problem. He had recruiters come after him, come after him, come after him. He had 3 security offers within a few weeks of being in my program. And prior to that, he'd been on 20 interviews and nobody was interested. He was with us for 3 weeks, and he got his first tech job, and it was a high-paying job. And then he stayed with us for a year, and he got his great cloud security architect job, all under our training, all for the same price. And the point is our people come and attack us because of our specialized LinkedIn profiles and resumes. So when you want that interview, if people aren't knocking down your door, batting down your door, I need you, I need you, I need you, we're going to do this. Our students get bombarded. So we decided to create a cheap, inexpensive day where you will learn the secrets of our resume techniques for $100 or less. And it's going to be a 4-hour course. So my team is posting that special LinkedIn and resume workshop. But prepare yourself, become great and competent, because if you do that, you're probably going to have a lot of people knocking down your door. So you're going to be prepared to win the interview when you get them. Right now, I've asked my team, because, the economic environment is challenging. Things are getting expensive inflation-wise. And here's the best hedge against inflation. Earn more. When you earn more and gas goes to $10 a gallon, you don't care because you can afford it. It's no big deal. So not that I want it that way, but as inflation gets worse and worse and worse, upgrade your salary, upgrade your lifestyle, and you can afford to live. So I've asked my team to come up with a 30% coupon for everybody using coupon code potential. Use coupon code potential. It'll give you 30% off of everything because I want you cloud hired, I want you cloud promoted and paid more, and I want you to live the best life. And then the last thing that I'll mention today is my team right now is working on a series. We've got about 13 blogs on how to better interview for cloud architect positions because I want you to be there. We've got some technology blogs and articles that are coming. I'm published in magazines, professional magazines and journals at least twice per week on average. And I want you to get all that free education too. So please follow Mike Gibbs as well as Go Cloud Careers on LinkedIn. We're going to be using that a lot. We've got so much more content for you. I've brought in some extra specialists on my team to produce so much more free content, free ebooks. And we produce this and we distribute it on LinkedIn. So please follow me on LinkedIn and Go Cloud Careers on LinkedIn. So now you know about all the free things that we're doing right now. So if you're looking to get your first cloud architect job, or first solution architect job, or first enterprise architect job, or cloud engineer job, ask us questions so we can help you. So you don't learn everybody else's jobs and not your own, which is the most common thing we see in the cloud architect, solution architect world. Even the cloud engineer job. We see people that are not learning the skills for their job because they don't know what the job is. They learn everybody else's job. And in the end, when we try to interview someone, they're not ready for the job. And I want you to be prepared, and get hired. So that's why we do what we do. And that's why we're here 3 times per week for free. That's why we do my free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar on Thursday. So ask us your questions. You don't have to be shy. Child T Fam, good morning, everyone. We are ready for your questions. Yes, we are. Give me a hashtag Cloud Hired. And if you can tell me where you're at in the chat box, what part of the world, I'd love to know it. I'm in Palm Beach, Florida right now. Kapil, Cloud Hired. Eric, thank you so much. You hope none of your questions are way out there. Eric, there's no such thing as a way out there question. We're here so that we can guide you correctly so you don't spend 10 years going in different directions and not knowing where to go. Just thrilled you're here. Sally, I am currently working with AWS as a technical support associate with 1+ years. Would this be counted experience? Look, anything you've done in your life can be counted in your experience. My previous job prior to this was the following: practiced internal medicine. And I showed my hiring manager that, meeting with a patient, asking questions, checking the baseline of the patient by examining their systems, making a diagnosis and plan was the same job I had as a cloud architect. So anything counts as experience if you know how to sell it right to the hiring manager. Now, Sahil, here's the bigger issue. It's not that you've done stuff. Like, yeah, I've got a coder that's been programming for the last 10 years. What does that have to do with cloud architecture? Absolutely zero. But it still counts as experience. See, as an architect, we design, present, and sell. And most people have a tech background, and they're so busy worrying about their tech experience, but they don't train for the architect job. Last night, you heard from someone that was an EMT working in ambulances, taking people to the hospital, and now is a cloud security architect with no experience. You heard from Romanek Ivan Tamba, a genius. He was in my program, hardworking, incredible kid. He was 24 years old, got hired by AWS, and his last job was going to college and serving food at a restaurant. You heard from Daniel Bosu, who was on my channel recently. And his last job was working at Nordstrom in the shoe department, and now he's a cloud architect at the world's largest bank. You heard from Coyote on my channel one day, who has zero tech background, who's now hired by AWS. So yeah, any experience counts. The key is, can you translate the experience into something that's meaningful? Can you do that? That's the key. Can you translate what you did in one world to the other? So of course it will be counted, but it's up to you to make the experience relevant. For example, if you're in an architect position and your job is to design, present, and sell, and you say, I closed the trouble tickets, no one cares. Now, if you can say you solved customer problems, you had a high level of communication skills and emotional intelligence to take upset clients and make them happy. You deployed or designed or recommended a new process, that could make the trouble ticketing process 13% more efficient. Now you're something like an architect. Was there some kind of problem solving, team building things that you did? That's architect work. So here's where people get into problems and they can't transition. They talk about the coding languages they know. They have a bunch of acronyms, EBS, EFS, TCP, PIM sparse mode, and what do you call it? ICMP echo messages. And they start putting all this in there, and they want to be applying for a job that's designed to present itself. And nobody wants an architect that's a techie. They want an architect that's a business executive and also at the same time knows how to design the technology, which is different than how to configure it. But you didn't mention which career you wanted. So, I mean, if you wanted to do tech support, it's perfect experience right now. So you didn't mention your career. So if you ask us your career, then we can tell you exactly how you can translate it. But without knowing your career, it's kind of just guesswork. And like I say to people, if you ask me which plane should I fly on, I'd say, where would you like to go? If somebody said, Mike, which degree should I get? I'd say, what would you like to do? So yes, your experience can be counted. But the key is, did you exactly do? And what would you like to do? And that's the key, is how we do this. So hope I answered your question there. And really super excited to have you answering these questions. And I love that you're asking these questions for the following reason. If you're asking these questions, we can help you get to your goals. And that's exclusively why we do this. That's what my team does, all these free sessions, is to help you get to your goals. So please feel free to ask more questions, because I really want to help you. Now, those of you in the chat box, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell and ask your questions. I'm completely here just to help you build your best careers. I can't do that if you don't ask the question. Lucas. Hi, Mike. I'm currently working as a pre-sales sales engineer of a backup solution. Can I change careers to cloud with no background? What should you learn on the way to the cloud career? So, Lucas, let's be very clear. There's a very different job that an engineer does than an architect does. And you're going to have to learn the cloud. Can you become a cloud architect? Yes, with no additional background. Of course you could. Can you become a cloud engineer with no additional background? Of course you can. So the key is you have to be trained for your job. Now, if you look what architects do, we don't do backup. Now, the backups that we do are a thought of one of our many thousands of things that we do. And that's the difference between engineering and architecture. As an engineer, you have to think about the backup solution. Are we creating system images? Are we using backup tapes? Are we shipping those tapes off-site? Are we using virtual tapes? What level of security do we need on the backup, et cetera, that goes down there. This is deep, deep, deep in the weed stuff. As an architect, it's like, okay, Mr. CEO, Mrs. CEO, could you tell me what your business challenges are? Wait, do you need more revenue? Do you need your employees to be more productive? Are you trying to eke out costs? Are you trying to improve communication and collaboration? Are you trying to improve your supply chain? Are you trying to produce error defects? So the architect world starts with what business problem you're trying to solve. Now, going from sales engineer to architect is a big difference. The sales engineers in general don't make it to the CXOs. The sales engineers make it to the director level, potentially VP level. The architects go straight to the CEO, straight to the CTO, IO, CFO, because as an architect, we're there. So when you're going from engineering to architecture, you must build the skills of CXO relevancy. What do you say to what CEO cares about different things than the CFO versus the CTO, and you've got to master this. You will also need the level of business acumen. So when you talk about the CEO, and they're talking about top-line revenues and compound annual growth rates and EBITDA, et cetera, because that's what they aim to think of. If you can't translate into the technical requirements, you can't do the job. Now, the next thing, because I was a pre-sales engineer, and it cost me about $250,000 to learn how to become a architect from there, and it paid for itself in about 1.5 years. So trust me, it was well worth it. The next thing is the leadership skill. See, when you're doing what you're doing right now, here's the thing. Engineering is zoomed in and focused on the thing. Architecture is big picture. So to become a cloud architect, The next thing you need to know is realize you can't do it all yourself. There's no architecture that you design yourself. When I design an architecture, I'm going to get a backup engineer because for their expertise, and an IAM architect for their IAM expertise, and a big data architect for their big thing, maybe a data scientist for their expertise in there, maybe 10 cloud network architects and 5 cloud security architects, and a couple of application architects. We're a team. I lead the team together. We come up with a solution. So you're going to need the leadership skills to go manage a team of easily 50 engineers. And you're going to have to develop the executive skills to go to the executive of your company and say, I need these 50 people because of the revenue that we can do. Now, Lucas, the next thing is the more business acumen and ROI modeling. Now, when you propose $1 billion architecture or $100 million architecture per month, and trust me, you will. What'll happen is as follows. The customer's not going to buy the architecture because they have any desire for your tech. They're buying the architecture to solve a business problem. So you will need to calculate the expected value of the opportunity and then produce a business case, which includes a return on investment capital model to show the customer that if they put the money into your solution, it's going to have a positive outcome. And you also have to get past what's called opportunity cost. If I invest in this, I can no longer afford to invest in this. You're going to have to prove that your investment, your design is going to be better than that. Now, the next thing, Lucas, is you're going to be presenting at industry conferences. You're going to be writing thought leadership things. You're going to be interviewed by the press, and you're going to be whining and dining your customer. Right? So those skills, some of those skills you have an engineer, but we're going to have to raise it up a lot. And yes, you can do it easily. So the next thing we need to do is make sure you know the network and the data center. What does a cloud architect do? They build plans as a rule to take the stuff out of the network and data center to the cloud. So that means learning BGP and learning interior gateway protocols such as OSPF. It means learning IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting, and route summarization, route aggregation, etc. It means learning WAN technologies such as IPsec tunnels, SSL-based VPNs, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, and SASE. It means understanding NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT, and this is way beyond the stuff that's taught in any certification. That's what you need for the job. And then it's a matter of understanding switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, etc. And then it's knowing networking protocols such as ARP and proxy ARP and DNS and DHCP. Now, on the data center side, and what I just talked about was a good 15,000 pages of reading. Now, the people that take our cloud architecture development course get all that summarized down because we know exactly what they need and nothing else. So you give them exactly what they need, which simplifies it. Now, in the network and the data center, you must understand servers and server virtualization and containers and container orchestration and in-depth knowledge of block storage, object storage, and file storage, and not the nonsense that they put in an AWS certified solution architect professional that's way too junior to do anything. That's the name of a service and how to configure it. I mean, you need to understand it. So a couple hundred pages of in-depth knowledge on these storage types. And if you're with us, we'll give it to you in the program. But if you're not, you need to do this. Next, you need to learn about databases and when to use relational databases and when to use NoSQL databases and when and why you can't use the proprietary cloud databases in many architectures like DynamoDB or Amazon Aurora. There's lots of good reasons not to use them, even though they're excellent databases when you need a high availability multi-cloud environment. So there's that. And then you need to understand next generation firewalls, not the stuff that's going to become cloud native, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, VPN concentrators for remote access. That's the tech stuff that you need to know. And I give you the business things that you need to know. So that's what you can do. Now, we can easily get you there in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, which is the cheapest way to do it, or you can take training for this. Training for this on your own is going to cost you about $50,000. You can take our course. Our course is the same $50,000 course we charge less than $1,000 for because I don't need to work at all. And I had a really great architecture career. So I charge what it takes to basically maintain a team of excellent people and make sure the company's poised to grow and make sure our students do well. So there's that. But this is what it takes. That's what you should learn to become a cloud architect or a solution architect. Master that and you'll be hired. My students do it every single day of the week. But it's getting you out of being thought of as an engineer. You got to be thought of as the business executive who also knows some engineering, but more there. So I want you to think about it this way. When you work in a company that does backup solutions, there's sales engineers. Somewhere along the line, there's these distinguished architects, and they come in and they're They walk into the customer and you feel them when they walk in the room because they're gravitas. They know how to connect with people. They got a Rolodex, or they know lots of people. They talk and everybody listens. That's what you need to become to be one of these architects. And that has everything to do with your executive presence training and your leadership training and your communication training and how you speak and act and promote. And again, you've got to learn that. We teach it in our program, or you can learn it on your own. But there's programs to do this, but that's what it takes. So yes, you can do it, Lucas. I see it every single day. And oh, by the way, Lucas, I was in this pre-sales engineer / architect job for the last 25 years. And I was a pre-sales engineer at one of them over 20 years ago. And my manager, I had fallen asleep in a meeting, and my manager grabbed me out of the meeting. It was actually a certification training course, the CISSP, which we all did that week. And my manager says, you know, Mike, you're not like everybody else. And he said, do you know the difference between a $150,000 sales engineer and a $300,000 architect? And I was like, I need to know. And he said, Mike, it's the impact you make on your customer. Meaning, it's your ability to lead, he said, because nothing good is accomplished by one person. It's your ability to sell the customer that they need what they need so they buy it and you can make their business better. It's related to being relevant to your audience, your CXOs, etc. It's related to being able to take your 40 pages of documentation and squish it down into 1 or 2 pages that the executives with the money can understand. It's about your presentation skills. It's about oomph and feeling you. And about $250,000 training later, I was that $300,000 architect. And we're going back 20 years ago. So the point is that's what you do from engineering to architecture. I took, that heavy education that I have, and many other people help pay for it. And that's what I put into this program. How do you become an architect? And when I've got people from no tech background, they're getting hired. And when I've got people from a tech background, they're getting hired and paid a lot more, but they're still getting hired. And the point is, any of you can do it. So, Lucas, that's exactly how you can do it. That's what you should learn. We'd love to train you in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Or you can buy these modules on your own. You can go to a Goldman course, spend the week there, and spend a few $1,000s for emotional intelligence. You can go to a presentations course. They'll charge you a few $1,000s for it. And that will get you there. Or you could just take ours. And it's first single day's pay will get you to your goals. We do it all the time, as long as you do the work. And if you'd like to know more about how to do this, join us on Thursday on the free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. I'll give you explicit instructions. You can, and it'll be on Zoom. You can come off mute on Zoom and even ask me questions. Ask Kat, any prerequisites? None. 0. And here's the reason. I must start everybody out at ground zero. When I'm dealing with a software engineer, they know coding, which is a great thing, but we don't code as architects. What we deal with is predominantly network and data center things. So with that, I start them at the beginning. But they have tech skills, the software engineers. They, generally speaking, understand operating systems and kernels, and they've got a lot of valuable experience too. But it's not the same as a network engineer, for example, or a data center engineer. So no, this week, a mental health tech of mine just told me that she just got her first cloud architect job. Again, no background. And the reason I don't have many prerequisites is I know this. I went from internal medicine to senior network engineer in the first hop. 6 months later, I was the lead architect of my team at the biggest ISP in the world on the most strategic team. But why? I killed myself in training. And you can do it too. So no, we don't have any prerequisites. We assume everyone knows nothing. And here's why. I've interviewed now 6,000 people in my life. I interviewed 5,000 people prior to starting the company. And of them, it was impossible to find somebody good. I hired 10. And of the 10, 5 knew nothing about technology. I just loved them so much, I basically paid to send them to training. I hired what I liked. That's what hiring managers do. And now I'm getting students hired every single day with no background. So we have no prerequisites whatsoever. And even if people know, when I interview people, I know what they know and what they don't know. So they still need to start at the beginning. And then what I did was regarding cloud, what I did is I interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people. And the only thing they did was certification. And literally speaking, there were none that were hireable. It was so bad that I went, we have to create this program. So I came out of retirement to create this program. I'm getting people hired every day. So there's no prerequisites whatsoever. None whatsoever. and we'd be thrilled and honored to work with you. And I'd be real excited when you send me that email or that Slack message. Mike, I have just gotten cloud hired. We'd love to work with you. Khan, sir, I'm currently working as IT tech support. I'm interested in cloud. Please, what you suggest me. Also, I am weak in coding. I've done certification. So, Mr. Khan, you have to tell me the cloud job that you want. For example, if you want to be an architect, we don't code, and you'll never need to code. And if you do code, we'd probably almost take it off your resume because it's an irrelevant skill. And we want to show that you're an expert at your job versus somebody else. Now, I don't know what you want to do. Do you want to be a system designer, like an architect where you design, present, and sell? Do you want to be a cloud engineer where you build the things that the cloud architect designed? Do you want to be someone that does databases? Do you want to be in big data? See, cloud is kind of a meaningless term because cloud can encompass, hundreds of different careers that could take you literally 4,000 to 5,000 years to learn. Now, unless you're a vampire and an immortal, where you can basically spend 100 years on cloud networking and 100 years on cloud security, and then another 100 years on cloud databases, and then another 100 years as a great data scientist to really master these things, it's not practical. And what happens is when people don't actually know the job they want, they learn a little bit of a lot of things. And then what happens is they're not really qualified for any job. And in the event they do get a job, their pay is so low. By comparison, if you know exactly what it is and you say, I want to be an architect, and you become a master architect, not only are you getting hired, but your salary's up here. Now, when you spread yourself too thin by trying to learn too many things, your salary's down here. Become a master, salary's up here. And I first learned this lesson in medicine, and then it's worked with me for the rest of my life. Here's what I learned in medicine a long time ago, because that's where I come from. An internal medicine doctor gets paid $200,000 a year. They go to school for 4 years of medical school, and then they do a 3-year residency and 1-year internship. So you're dealing with 8 years of school, $250,000 of debt to earn $200,000 a year. Now, the internal medicine person is the generalist, and they work 60, 70, 80 hours a week for that $200,000 a year, and they take on $250,000 of debt or more to get there. By comparison, I know an orthopedic surgeon in Colorado. This orthopedic surgeon only works on knees. Now, this orthopedic surgeon has a reputation that's so good, he does 5 surgeries per day and charges cash only. He doesn't take insurance. And each cash payment is about $20,000. So this surgeon who works 8 hours a day makes $100,000 a day or $500,000 a week. So we've got an internal medicine doctor that's killing themselves. They'd be a generalist, jack of all trades, master of none, for $200,000 a year. And we've got a specialist earning $500,000 a week. What do you want to be? So I want you to be the best. I want you to be hired. So please tell me your exact cloud career and I will guide you there. Because I don't want you to be that internal medicine person. I want you to be that sky high paid orthopedic surgeon that's only doing one joint. Tell T-Fam, you want to become a cloud engineer. You've done Azure administrator, but confused where do you start? Because people say programming is necessary for a cloud person. Well, no coding is necessary to be a cloud architect, but it's very critical that you know coding to be the cloud engineer. Absolutely critical. So what we're going to say is, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no certification that will get you a cloud engineer job. None. But here's what you would need to know. The first thing you need to know is the network and the data center, because you're going to be implementing and building data center solutions. And the next thing is, it's not good enough to know Azure. You need to understand the cloud. So you need to understand BGP. You need to understand IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, etc. You need to understand the WAN technologies that we talked about, IPsec tunnels, SSL-based VPNs, VPN conscious, SSL-based VPNs, IPsec-based VPNs, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking and SASE. We're talking about IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, etc., etc., etc. Then next, you need to make sure that you understand switching, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, VLAN trunking, VLAN tagging, etc., etc., etc. Then when you're done that, you're dealing with DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy, ARP, etc. Then on the networking data center side, it's all about, designing your virtualization strategy or using virtual machines and how they go, containers and container orchestration, storage area networks like block storage, object storage, file storage, load balancers, the type of business applications that are out there, et cetera. Now, firewalls, VPN concentrators, IDS, IP systems. Now, as a cloud engineer, you got to be hands-on on these things. Cloud architect is just design. Cloud engineer is building these things. Now, because the cloud engineer is going to be building them, they need to be really competent on the management consoles and the CLI. Now, a cloud engineer, not a cloud architect, a cloud engineer needs to code. A cloud engineer will be constantly automating, which means Python and Bash shell scripting for a cloud engineer. Cloud architects don't code, but cloud engineers do. So you will need to know that. Now, you, as a cloud engineer, you're going to be managing systems. And that means they're predominantly going to be Linux. So you need to be very good at Linux systems administration. You will definitely also need to know infrastructure as code. So in our cloud engineering program, which is where you should start, we teach all of those skills. But that's why it's really important to know which job. Cloud architect, design, present, and sell. We don't code or configure or touch the technology ever. Cloud engineer, oh my God, hands-on tech, code, script, configure, infrastructure as code, etc. And that's why we have two separate programs. And that's why when someone puts cloud architect, type cloud engineer on the resume and LinkedIn profile, we can't even hire them at all. Because we know if they don't even know what the job is, we couldn't hire them, they couldn't do either one. So that's really the thing. That's how you become a cloud engineer, and those are the things that you need to learn. But understand the certification is the name of the service and how to configure that service. That will not work for a job like this at all. It almost works for a cloud admin job, but not really anymore. And here's the reason certifications have become so worthless. The people teaching most of the certification courses have never worked in the tech themselves. They get 10x or 7x certified, and then they're teaching something that they don't even understand. So what's coming out of certification mills is garbage. That's what we do ours free, because I don't want anybody to have to pay for nonsense. I want people to get good technology education free. The second part of it is as follows. 50 people reach out to me every day. Mike, I can guarantee you can pass this exam, this exam, this exam. Some people say you don't even have to take the exam, we'll take it for you. Now, I would never participate in this, but there's so much cheating on certification exams that the value of them has gone so low. So what happens on an interview is nobody cares that you're certified. They care, can you do the job? And that's what you need to prove. But now you know what you need to be a cloud engineer. But if you don't want to be a cloud engineer, I'd recommend something as an architect. If you don't want to do coding, I'd recommend something in architecture. And that way you won't have to. Sean J. You have been in consultative network marketing sales for 25 years. You're also a Toastmaster speaker. I have knowledge in IT from IS certification 15 years ago, but no tech experience. I'm 50. Everyone thinks I'm in my 30s, even with the beard. You love the AWS associate path because you love helping others. Can you transfer to this field? Well, Sean, two things are going to occur. You're going to have to learn how to be an architect, which means how to design things. You're also going to have to learn sales. And what I mean sales is networking marketing sales is not this kind of sales at all. That's emotional sales, etc. This is not emotional sales. Mr. Customer, my $500 million solution will do this to your business. We can increase your revenue by XYZ%. We can, based upon our experience with other organizations, etc., etc. Here's an ROI model calculation. So for us, when you present to the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, it is not the same presentation you do to someone that's here. I can help you with network marketing, your upline, your downline. So it's completely opposite sales. So you'll have to learn the sales, which is fine. You will have to develop different presentation skills than you would ever in that world. You are going to have the leadership skills to lead 50 people that don't even work for you, and you're not paying them. You will have to get used to presenting in front of audiences. I present in 5,000 person audiences constantly. You will have to get your writing skills so good, because you're not only going to be writing for customers, but you're going to be writing articles for magazines, typically you'll write something called white papers, which help the company sell for the external website. Now, you're going to have to develop an extreme amount of business acumen. So when a CEO talks about their compound annual growth rate and what they're trying to achieve, you need to understand what that means, and you need to think about what technologies can support that growth. What back-end systems do they need so they can scale the business without going bankrupt because they don't have the structure in place? What can you do to increase revenue? What can you do to improve employee productivity, meaning do more with less resources? What can you do to knock out costs out of the system? When minimum wage rises and the company says, Mike, I need to get rid of 30% of my staff because I can't afford this, you need to be knowing what kind of robotic technology is out there to replace humans, because you're going to be that. When the company talks about we want to outsource this thing, which means layoffs, you're going to have to ask the people that are getting laid off information to do your job. And as an architect like me, I don't like being in that position. So when I talk to people that I know are getting laid off, I do the following. I try to train them on new skills so they're willing to work with me. So if they get laid off, they're there. I then teach them the skills that are necessary for the job and try to convince the company they need them, even though they're doing some strategic outsourcing, because I made them better and right for the role. So these are the kind of things you do in architecture. And Sean, of course you can. And if you look 50, that's better than looking 30. And here's the reason why. The reason I bring 20-year-olds like Delroy Batt and Romanik Ivan Tamba and Daniel Bosu, who didn't even graduate high school, by the way, who's working as a cloud architect, with zero experience. And Romanik Ivan Tamba, wonderful Cameroonian gentleman who was 24, and his last job, he was in college when AWS hired him. Or Coyote, another thing. So I know you said you're 50 and looks 30. It's not a big deal or bad if you look 50. It's even better if you've got some gray hairs, because the employer assumes gray hairs, lots of wisdom, et cetera, et cetera. So if you look 30, perfect. 30 is like an optimal age, because at 30, people assume that we're not kids anymore, et cetera. But if you're 50, people also assume you have a better work ethic right now. And I'm not going to get involved in the generational debates, but people are concerned with the younger people's lack of desire to work. And people that are 50, they assume you're going to work hard. You've got some wisdom, experience. Maybe you've raised some kids. Maybe you're less likely to make the stupid mistakes we all do in our youth. So that's a good thing. So Sean J, yes, you can become a cloud architect. We would love to train you, or you can train on your own. And if you come tomorrow to How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar, I will tell you exactly what you need to do and learn on your own. And you'll be great. And you can do it great. And I encourage you so much to follow your dreams. Anyone can do anything they want. Anyone. And don't worry when you tell people, they're going to tell you you're crazy. When I told people I'm going to get people cloud architect jobs without experience, a year later, about 100 plus people have been hired from my program. Wait, can't be done. And a lot of these people had no background. It can be done. And here's the thing. When you are an expert at your career and you interview people as a hiring manager like me, it's near impossible to find somebody that knows their career. I interview someone and they know this job, this person's job, this person's job, this person's job, but nobody knows architecture. Why am I the only guy teaching architecture? Well, most architects would be of my caliber, would be earning $500,000 a year somewhere and enjoying it, but I don't need to work. I don't know. And I was retired. I came out of retirement to help the community. So when I train in architecture, a student gets hired because they know architecture. So that's why the people that are trying to teach these courses, especially the certification courses, they don't know architecture. They don't. And when you can't teach what you don't know, so what are these people doing? They're getting certified and they're teaching it. And then you see some horrible PowerPoint slides with audio and it sounds like blah, 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 blah. And here's the reason for that. You can't teach what you don't know. As Albert Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. So, Sean, I'd love to work with you. Now you know the phases. Hi, Mike. You want to be a cloud architect. You have good knowledge of networking, Linux, and also have the solutions architect, please. Please, what's next? Okay, so I don't know what your knowledge of networking is. Is your knowledge, I know how to design BGP peering sessions with a bunch of route reflectors, confederations, and MPLS traffic engineered tunnels? Because if so, that's network architecture. Or is your networking router BGP 65312, neighbor 192.168, 1.1, remote AS 65313, network 10.0.0.0, mask 255.0.0.0. If that's networking that you're doing, we need to teach you network architecture, because engineering and architecture are two things. Now, as architects, we don't touch Linux at all. We don't touch the technology ever, and we never configure it. So that's not going to be a valuable skill to you. But what is critical is knowing how Linux works. Do you understand the Linux kernel and the shared memory spaces and Linux hypervisors? Because that's something we will deal with as architects. How do we architect the Linux? But not how do we configure the Linux? And the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional Certification discusses nothing of architecture. It's purely simply the name of a service and how to configure that service. So when we get people with this background, what we have to do is teach them to be an architect. Now, if you know BGP and how to architect BGP, great. But if not, you will need to learn BGP. It will be bonus knowledge if you've got a good understanding of interior gateway protocols. And again, not how to configure them, how to design them. How do I design my OSPF backbone to minimize LSAs? Do I make this area a stub area, this area not so stubby area, this area a totally stubby area? How do I do it? Now, where do I summarize along the way? My routing to tune my routing performance, etc. That kind of knowledge is the kind of knowledge we're talking about, not how to configure it. Next thing, can you think of a VLAN strategy? Can you think of your per VLAN rapid spanning tree for rapid convergence? Where do you doing your VRRP, etc. When we're going out there, not how to configure it, how to design them, how to architect it. So those are the kind of networking things. Now, next, you need to understand the data center. When to use server virtualization? How does it work? And you must know this, because you're going to be taking virtual machines from the data center to the cloud. And when you really know the cloud, and I don't mean this nonsense, you passed the certification, because that's not anything, that's valueless. When you actually have the knowledge and you know what a virtual machine is, then guess what? You know what a compute engine instance is on Google, an Azure virtual machine, an Oracle virtual machine, and an AWS EC2 instance. So the key is to know the underlying technology, because you can't design based upon the name of the service and how to configure that. That would be like a doctor or a nurse practitioner. Imagine somebody said, Mike, here's your 3 pills, the red one, the yellow one, and the blue one. You prescribe them at these dosages. But Mike, we're not going to teach you how to diagnose the patient. We're not going to teach you how to assess the patient. And we're not even going to tell you how these drugs work. But here, trust me, give them out. It's nonsense. That's what's the certification, name of the service, and how to configure that. So next, I need you to understand storage, area networks, block storage, object storage, and file storage, and not the basic nonsense in a certified solution architect professional, but really a couple 100 pages of knowledge of how it works. And we teach this in our course. And then I need you to understand load balancers. When do you use a network load balancer, an application load balancer? When do you actually have to use both of them? Both of them, etc. You need to know that. And then where do you put your firewalls? Where do you put your IDS services? Why can't you use those cloud-native firewalls in an enterprise environment? What happens in multiple clouds? What is real enterprise security versus cloud-native enterprise security? And they're not even close. How do I design it? Etc. etc. So those are the things that you need to know. And then you need to learn how to sell, how to present, what to say to the CEO, CFO, CTO. It's called CXO relevancy. You need to become an executive, for example, and have executive presence. BGP is a path vector routing protocol that uses TCP port 179 to exchange network layer and reachability information. I did that in an architect interview. Mike, it was nice to meet you. Come back when you have more experience, which means you did a bad job. Even with 25 years of experience. Now, if I said BGP is a path vector routing protocol that's used for interdomain routing, it's used due to its scalability, its tunability, and the ability to filter appropriate messages, etc. BGP provides network layer reachability information so you can connect to external entities and reach what you need to. Now you're hired. And it's very subtle, but that's the difference between executive presence or lack thereof. Now, when you go in an interview, when you talk about EBS and EFS, done, interview's over, because you look biased, and that's what comes out of certification. Now, when I talk to the CEO and say, could you tell me your goals? And they say, I'd like to increase revenue by 3%. In order to do this, we're implementing this, this, and this. Can you provide the technology to make this happen? Yes, I can. That's what we do as an architect. And then we're dealing with a $300 million deal. We've got to go in with the sales team, the account managers, etc., and help negotiate the deal. So that's what you need to learn, and that's how you break into it. And none of this stuff is covered in certifications. And that's why we have our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Because I get everybody that come to me with an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional or 10 certifications, and they're like, Mike, nobody wants me to be as a cloud architect. And I said, that's because you don't know architecture. You know the name of a service and how to configure it. And you need to learn the executive communication skills, the leadership skills, because every architecture is a 50-person design. And by your name, I'm going to understand, I know you'll know what this means. We'll take the African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And as architects, we constantly have to build teams of experts to help us craft our design, because we want to go far together. There's no going fast alone as an architect. Every time we build a team, where's my IAM architects, my security architects, my cloud network architects, my big data architects, and the cloud architect and the enterprise architect supervise that group. Then we have to write it up and present it back to the customer. And if we present to the executives the same way we present to the management, we're fired, and our replacement says, thank you for the nice job. So that's the skills that you need to learn. It's this design, present, and sales skills. We'd love to train you, but if you don't train with us, now you know exactly what you need to do. That's how you break into this field and watch your first job. Now, I encourage you to watch last night's video with, Delroy Batt. Delroy's from the Caribbean. I encourage you to watch Romanik Ivan Tamba's video. He's from Cameroon, was born in Cameroon, incredible kid. We loved working with him. I encourage you to watch Coyote's video and see how we took him with no background in tech to working at AWS, and et cetera, et cetera. So lots of people we've helped. One of my students, Jennifer, mental health tech, just got hired as a cloud architect. She's super excited about it. So watch last night's just because it was fresh and exciting. But there's so many stories like this on my YouTube channel. So please go to the next one, Chris. Hello, sir. You're a 2010 pharmacy graduate. Now for the 7 months you're learning a cloud. Could you create a roadmap? Yes. First, Iman, thanks so much. I appreciate you pharmacists so much. I've written so many prescriptions in my life, and you and other pharmacists look at the prescriptions and make sure there's no medical errors and promote patient safety. So thank you for protecting my patients all over the years. Now let's talk about this. For the last 7 months, you're learning cloud. Pretty much what I'm assuming you've learned is probably from certifications, which means it's all meaningless. What you need to learn is the cloud. And what is a cloud? The cloud is as follows. It's a network and a data center that's been virtualized. That's it. Which means what you need to know, the network and the data center. Now, here's why cloud certifications are worthless. Here's the name of a service and how to configure that service. So I'm going to put it very relevant in your terms, Iman. Imagine if when you went to pharmacy school and you got your doctorate in pharmacy, imagine if they didn't teach you what was a calcium channel blocker and how it worked, or how does a macrolide antibiotic work? And all they said is, prescribe this at this dosage. Well, pharmacists don't prescribe, but neither case. But imagine that's all it was, is here's the drug and the doses. And we're going to come up with a name. We're going to call it the elastic lipid lowering device. Now, they could have just called it atorvastatin, or, some silly brand name Lipitor, or they could have just called it, made up any stupid name they want. And when you learn certification, all you learn is the stupid name that somebody made up for the drug. And here's the thing. Every manufacturer has the same things under different names. This is insanity. Now, we medical professionals like you, we're taught this is what a calcium channel blocker does. This is what an ARB does. This is what an ACE inhibitor does. And we know the process that's going on in the body. And then I can say my patient has hypertension. They're a diabetic, so I'm going to give an ACE inhibitor to protect their kidneys. I have a heart failure patient, therefore I'm going to give a beta blocker and an ACE inhibitor, et cetera, et cetera. So we in medicine and architecture think, what is the challenge and how do we solve it through the processes? What's taught in certification is, here's the name of that drug and here's how to configure it. Now, why is certification even worse? Well, every company has a different name. I mean, seriously, every company has a different name. So really think about this, because I was a nurse practitioner and a nurse before that and a paramedic before that. So really, let's think about what goes into this. If every doctor talked brand names to each other, hey, I got a lipid low for you. It's going to be great. I got a cloud-based elastic lipid low. I got this cool reduce your triglycerides, lower your LDL statin over here. Hey, I got this cool thing. And everybody was talking to everybody without a common language or lexicon or word. We have a bunch of people that would be making more medical errors than they do. They're already the third leading cause of death. They'd be the primary leading cause of death. So in medicine, we don't do that. We talk about the tech. I am prescribing atorvastatin 20 milligrams. Now, every pharmacist and every pharmacy throughout the world knows what that is. Every doctor and every pharmacy knows what that is. Every registered nurse and physician assistant knows what that is. We speak a common technology. So what you need to learn is the network and the data center, which means BGP. How to design it, not how to configure it, because we don't design. We are like the doctor. We build the plan. Next, OSPF, you should probably know intermediate systems to some degree. Next, you need to know how to build your IP network. So that means your network architecture. It means your subnetting, your supernetting, your route aggregation, route summarization. Then it means how do we connect the data center or where the users are to the cloud, otherwise you can't use it. So that means whether you're using IPsec channels or SSL-based VPNs. Then it involves, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, SASE. Now we're dealing with switching technologies, VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, because we're going to need that as part of our WAN, plus the WAN, especially when we're dealing with cloud providers. So that means understanding switching things like VLAN, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking protocols like 802.1q. It also understands spanning tree and rapid spanning tree. And then, one company buys another company, so you need to use network address translation, et cetera, et cetera. So that means one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, port address translation, et cetera. So, there's that. And kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So next up the list, we're dealing with DNS, DHCP, or proxy architecture. Now, you must understand servers and server virtualization. And when you understand that, and you go build a VMware ESXi server, and all my students do, then if it's an Azure virtual machine, a AWS EC2 instance, a Google Compute instance, an Oracle virtual machine, or a virtual machine on Nutanix, OpenStack, or any cloud, you got it. And it's only the names have changed. So it's just like when you're a pharmacist, if I wrote a prescription for Lipitor, you would automatically translate it to atorvastatin, no matter what. So it's the same thing. And that's what we do as architects. We get rid of and don't use those brand names. And then you need to learn the data center technologies, such as block storage, object storage, file storage, load balancers, firewalls, VPN concentrators, intrusion detection, when to use a relational database, when to use a NoSQL database, how to make those databases scale, when and why not to use the proprietary databases, and I can go on and go on and on. But on top of that, you need high levels of emotional intelligence. And a pharmacist, you probably already have that, nurses, etc. Extremely good here, strategically advantaged. Much easier to get hired than a non-tech than some other people sometimes. Now the next, CXO relevancy, we're not taught that in healthcare, so you need to understand that. Soft skills, you probably have them pretty good from your medical background. Leadership skills, well, I know pharmacists manage some pharmacy techs, but you're not going to be managing huge teams of 50, so you're going to work on your leadership skills. And executive presence in medicine, we're taught to be calm and quiet. Here I need you to be big and loud and powerful, so we'd have to train that. Those are the skills. We'd love to train you, or you can train on your own, but now you know what you need to do. So what's the difference between a cloud engineer and a DevOps engineer? Great question. So look at it this way. A DevOps engineer is a software engineer first, that then learns the tools for DevOps, etc. So the DevOps tools, whether it be Jenkins and Spinnaker and Git and all these other things. So DevOps engineers are software engineers that now automate software release cycles. They're also the big infrastructure as code people, and they're doing automation engineering. That's what DevOps engineers do. Cloud engineers build the solution that the cloud provider gives them. So I'm an architect, I design something, present it, negotiate it, sell it to the customer. As an architect, my hands don't get dirty ever. The only time I ever touch my keyboard is to write a Word document, a PowerPoint document, or make a graphics chart on Visio, Lisa chart, Draw IO, etc. That's the only time I ever touch the technology. An Excel spreadsheet, for example. So I design it, and then I hand it to a team of cloud engineers, and they build it. So the cloud engineers build what the cloud architect actually designs. The DevOps engineers can also build what we do, but they do it much more infrastructure as code. And so the cloud engineers are learning that. So that there is DevOps work in the cloud engineers world. There's no DevOps work in an architecture because architecture is still far away from it. But DevOps, you really want to be a good expert software engineer before you get into DevOps. It's not like here, just take this silly AWS DevOps professional certification. Now you're going to be hard. It's not going to get anybody hired for anything. You need to be a software engineer first for this job, and then master these DevOps practices, and then you'll be good to go. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind, Joa. That's what a DevOps engineer does. Whereas the cloud engineer primarily does building the solutions that we gave them. So hope that answered your question. We actually answered this question, Chow, or Chris. TL, good morning, sir. I'll shoot my shot. I've been in tech since 09, help desk, PC tech, sysadmin, lead tech, goals, cloud security architect, more so on the technical side. Okay, TL, cloud security architects are not super technical people. They're not technical people. They're architects. We design, present, and sell. So if your goal is to be on the technical side, find a new career like cloud engineering. I'm going to make that very clear to you right now. If you want to be technical, you will be miserable as an architect because you are never going to touch the technology. I've got graduates that get hired every single day. For a year later, they're like, Mike, I buy lunches, dinners, and drinks. I make Excel spreadsheets with who's doing what. I make PowerPoint designs. I write statements of work. I buy lots of lunches and dinners and drinks. On the corporate credit card, I take people playing golfing, but am I ever going to touch the tech? And I said, I told you in the beginning, never. And they're like, then why did you teach me so much tech? I said, you needed a lot to design it. I said, you're doing designs? And they're like, yeah. I said, you have an interview where they ask you technical questions? They said, yeah. I said, that's why I trained you. I needed you to pass the interview. Now, the reality is, get used to schmoozing, kissing babies, and get, and one of my students in England was like, Mike, you've changed my life. I had a new car show up in my driveway, a new hybrid car or electric vehicle, which he wanted. He said, the company bought it for me. He said, I have more money than I can talk about now. I'm happy. I'm getting married now. But, Mike, I'm never going to touch tech. He said, because I keep asking the architects, and they said they've never touched it either. I said, no, like I told you from the beginning, you will never touch the tech. So if your goal is to become a cloud security architect, the first thing you need to realize is you will never touch the tech. Now, the next thing you need to realize is right now you got all this PALP tech, PT tech, sysadmin stuff on you. That makes you look exactly not like an architect, which is why I never start people in help desk. So what we need to do with someone like you is show that you're not help desk and you're not sysadmin, you're a designer. So what that means is we need to take everything on your resume, all that techie stuff off. We need to keep some like back in 09. And for the last 5 years, change it. So if in help desk, when you were there, you'd created a new process to close trouble tickets faster, that we need to talk about. If you had customer satisfaction scores of 4.9, that we need to talk about because it shows your customer experience in delighting people. If you reduce trouble tickets by 13%, we need to talk about that because that's showing transformation. That's what we need to do. Same thing for all of your experience. Not, I set up 6,000 Linux servers. But it needs to be helped organization migrate from Windows servers to Linux servers, which saved XYZ dollars and promoted increased uptime by XYZ%. So as an architect, we need to talk about the impact of what we do. For the engineer, it's like configured BGP with communities, route reflectors, etc. Because they need to prove technical competence. For an architect, we need to prove we're not a techie, that we're a business leader. So if you want to be on the technical side, pick cloud security engineering, because you're not going to be doing technical as an architect. But if you're that's what you need to learn, which means you're going to need to learn how to write a security policy, how to do a security assessment, how to train the people against antisocial engineering, what kind of things need to be done to a server to harden it, like disabling unnecessary services, patching it, endpoint protection, etc., etc. Host-based firewalls, etc. What does your intrusion detection and intrusion prevention strategy look like? What kind of next generation firewalls are you using? Are you using one set or two sets? What are you doing? Now, you're dealing with security, so now you're going to be dealing with identity and access management. What kind of identity and access management systems are we using? What kind of frameworks are going to be using to secure the enterprise? So it's going to be like like when I took the CISSP exam years ago, obviously it was a nothing exam. I took it and put 5 days of prep and passed it. Here's the thing. It was just design stuff. There were lots of people taking it, and they didn't need a tech background to do it. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Architects aren't technical people. They're 50 to 60% executive and 40 to 50% technical. Now, the only role that's more technical is something called the technical architect, which is an engineer. And what a technical architect is somebody that's been an engineer for a while, and they're a really good engineer, and you can't figure out how to pay them more. So you make them a technical architect, but I'm going to tell you this, TL, they get paid half of a good enterprise architect, literally half or less. Because high value skills, bring $1 billion of business into the company, you can get paid anything you want. Low value skills, hands-on. Now, I love engineers, love them, love them, love them. And I'm going to tell you right now, I would be nothing in my career without the engineers. Nothing. I make a design and they bring it to life. I'm going to say this one more time. I want you to think about it this way. Imagine the following. When you need a hotel built, you hire an architect and you tell the architect, I would like to design a building that does this. I want 10,000 meters tall or 1,000 meters tall. I want a helipad over here. I want waterfalls. I want a water slide. I want palm trees. That's what you tell the architect. And the architect builds you a blueprint. And when they're done, the architect doesn't use a hammer or a screwdriver or nails. They hire a construction crew. Architects design the blueprint, the strategy. The engineers do the building. So if you want to be technical, understand that's not the architect's job. Designing it, building this, etc. What would be the key steps in order to complete the certifications? Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. If your goal is to pass certifications and you do that, you can have 1,000,001 certifications and no one will ever hire you. Knowledge gets you hired. So I like to use this example. Certifications are like the icing on top of the cake. If you don't have the cake, guess what? The icing is worthless. And that's the problem. So I want you to have the cake because you can get hired without the cake. Delroy Bat just got a big cloud security architect job. And I asked him, can you afford a 4-bedroom single family home and 2 Mercedes? And he said, yes. He has no cloud certifications, but he's an expert. Now, Sahil, I'm going to tell you how I did the certifications. And I don't even keep the certifications on my resume because they lower my salary so much. I want to be seen as that enterprise executive architect. I put the CCI on there because it's a good certification. And I usually use the Google Professional Cloud Architect because it's a little more architecty than the AWS one. But really speaking, I hide the certifications. Now I'm going to tell you a secret. I never worked on the Google Cloud at one point a couple of years ago. I'd worked with AWS and Azure and built private clouds and all kinds of clouds. And I've been working on cloud stuff since 1996. My first cloud was Frame Relay. My next cloud was ATM, etc. So I've been working on various clouds for 20 plus years. Now, when I took the Google exam, I spent 2 days preparation. 2 days. I bought the Cybex book, the official Google one. I read it that weekend. On Monday, I took the exam. I completed the exam in 47 minutes because it was so basic. So when you actually know it, passing the exams is nothing. I mean, it's literally nothing. It's like mailing a letter to your friend and licking the letter and licking the postage stamp and sending the mail. It's that easy. Now, if you try to learn the other way, you do certification and you hear somebody saying, hey, here is this. Here is this. For example, here's the name of the service and how to configure that. That won't teach you how the service works at all. And if you don't understand how it works, then it's memorization or mugging up questions and answers depending upon when you're from. And in the end, you may pass it, but you have no knowledge that's worth anything. And you're not hireable. So I would say, don't waste your time. Learn the technology first. Have the cake. And you're hireable with just the cake. And then get the icing. Basically, at that point, all you need is a practice exam, or you can just basically buy an official book, or like one of the books we wrote, pass the exam in 2 days instead of 6 months. So don't let the tail wag the dog. You or me are the dog. The eye wags the tail. I get the training that I need. Actually, I'm a cat, but listen to I have a house with the cat. But the cat wags the tail. So the cat has the knowledge and determines when it wants to wag the tail. So how do you complete the certifications? You learn the tech. You master the tech. You develop the skills to be good at the job. And then you'll be good to go. Easily. That's how I would do it. And I've always done it. Sean J., thank you so much for your service. You have given me a wealth of information and your ability to help people is amazing. You're in Fort Lauderdale. I'm looking forward to starting your program. Sean, I look forward to you working in Fort Lauderdale. I'm actually in the Palm Beach County area. Been here for a little while. From my team, Chris is actually in St. Petersburg, so we got a lot of Florida people here. We'd love to work with you. Love to see you in class. Can't wait to see you on Zoom. Network muscle. Hi, Mike. You passed the ASAP and networking specialty. How would your architect course help me become an architect? Okay, right now, network muscle, here's what you know. If all you know is the AWS Advanced Networking, which in my mind is an intro to junior level networking, and you have the SAP, you have 5% of what's necessary to get you a job. I will fill in that other 95%. If you just have this, and I've interviewed hundreds of people with those two certifications, they aren't employable for anything. So they don't teach design. And quite frankly, that AWS Advanced Networking is so basic, they tell you not to do the things that we CCIs are trained in how to do, because they assume that nobody's going to have the capability. So you're not hireable with just those two things. So we can take you from where you're at to getting hired. That's the only way I can say it. I can't hire anybody with certifications. I've interviewed 1,000 people, and many of them have the solution architect professional. And what happens is they go on interviews because they get the interviews with the certifications, but then they can't get hired. And here's the reason why. The course, the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, is basically speaking the name of a service and how to configure that. But architects don't configure anything, they design. So we will teach you the system design. Now, nobody hires you because you're technical to be an architect. Never. They're looking for, as what they said to Daniel Bosa, which is the best description, I need a sales guy with a scientific basis that they can wear a lab coat. That's it. So we will teach you those sales skills, the executive presence skills, the leadership skills, the emotional intelligence, the ROI modeling, the business acumen, how to negotiate a higher salary, etc. We can get you hired. All in all, you'll probably earn $50,000 to $100,000 more out of our program than you ever could on your own, because I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to training and when it comes to salary, the biggest impact to your salary is actually your soft skills. That's right. They have a 30% impact on your salary. So take a average cloud architect with $150,000 salary, train them in soft skills, and you're dealing with close to 200,000. Now, we have the best emotional intelligence training program in the world. I can tell you right now, because I take things that are taught in you. So emotional intelligence is the ability to manage your emotion and other people's emotions. So we teach the normal Goldman emotional intelligence thing, but that's generic. Because of my background in medicine, and specifically cognitive behavioral therapy, and I did my clinical rotations at the University of Pennsylvania Presbyterian Hospital, which is where they basically invented it. I was trained in cognitive behavioral therapy. Now that's used by Navy SEALs, it's used by Olympians, and it's used by the medical people to control people's emotions. I teach that in the program as well. I actually brought in a yoga instructor to teach some mindfulness meditations, some yoga things, etc. And by doing that, we raise people's emotional intelligence to the nth degree. Now, what if I told you that the training emotional intelligence on the average person increases their salary by $29,600 more per year? So wait, $50,000 increase on average for training for training soft skills, $30,000 increase on average from training emotional intelligence. Over the course of your 30-year career, that's about $2.4 million different is over what you would learn by focusing on the tech. So we'll get you hired. We'll teach you what needs to be on your resume. We'll teach you how to negotiate a higher salary. We'll teach you how to interview. And we'll teach you how to be an architect, because you didn't get that from any certification. I wish you did, but it's not covered in certifications. Are solution architects and cloud architects fundamentally different? We require the same skills. I'm saying AWS has both roles. So AWS has a totally different version of than these, so don't look at AWS. As a rule, AWS has solution architects, and they do the cloud architect job. And their cloud architects aren't cloud architects at all. So here's the basic difference. As a solution architect, you work for AWS. If you work for AWS, you're an AWS solutions architect. If you work at Azure, you're an Azure solutions architect. And if you work at Google, you're a Google solutions architect. And as a solutions architect, here's what happens. I design something on the AWS system. Only AWS. Now, if the company has some other stuff, I'm going to integrate it. But when I work for AWS, I can only sell AWS. A cloud architect will say, wait, you need high availability, high security. We're going to put you on 3 clouds. We're going to take your data center right now and convert that to an OpenStack cloud. We're going to put 50% of their stuff on Azure, 50% on AWS. That will give you much higher availability, much more robustness, and will give you this in terms of business continuity planning for the same price. So the cloud architect is kind of the master. They know what I need to do in every way, how to use multiple clouds. And the cloud architect designs across multiple clouds. A solution architect only knows one cloud. Because all of my students, know the Azure cloud, and all of my students know the AWS cloud, and all of my students design and build from scratch their own cloud, an OpenStack cloud. My students can work anywhere. And that you can see they work at Bearing Point, they work at Deloitte, they work at Capgemini, they work at AWS, they work at Cisco, they work at, I can't even begin to name, they work at Citrix. I mean, I've got students that are literally working in every major environment, JP Morgan, Chase Bank. And in all these environments, they're dealing with multi-cloud stuff. So a cloud architect easily can become a solutions architect because it's a more junior role for them. That a solutions architect would need special training to be a cloud architect. Because 87% of customers right now are on 2 or more clouds, and 97% want to be, the solution architect's a dead job. That's why I teach the cloud architect. And, some of my students get what I call jobs that they're in solution architect jobs. Technically, they're called solution architect jobs at AWS. A lot of them, AWS has a layer of our people. But generally speaking, a cloud architect, you work for a consulting firm, and they say, here, we're going to take these 40,000 remote locations and these data centers to the cloud. Can you build me a plan? And the cloud architect knows how to do it across all clouds. So for the cloud architect, it's much more important to be versed in the technology. Mickey, can you build a private practice around cloud computing career after a few years experience? For those of us, so could you build a cloud computing consulting firm where you hire cloud architects to design and cloud engineers to build and DevOps engineers to automate? Of course you can. Of course you can. Of course you can. I know lots of people that do it. People ask me every day, are you willing to do some consulting? And I say, I can't fly an airplane and keep the passengers safe in the seat at the same time. So I can't be the CEO and do cloud consulting. You can only do one thing at a time and be good at it. So I practice what I preach. I say, learn your job and not somebody else's, but of course you can. Of course you can. Easily, easily, easily. Hi, sir, you're trying to follow advice of understanding service and how to configure. Can you suggest a point after the AWS will provide exposure? Malik, what I would suggest is this following. I know you're in my course. Please do the work and follow the course. I've not seen you in class once, and I've not seen you turning in any homework assignments. So I want you to be successful. Just buying my course alone. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to be an architect, do not configure things. Name of a service, how to configure it. Learn the tech. So what I'd like you to do is actually come to class. I would actually like you to participate in design sessions. When you're in class and I make the students present it back to me, okay, you designed this, let me talk to you. I want you to present it back. I want you to sell it to me. So I'd like you to come to class. You bought a program and I want you to maximize it. So please come to class, because you're not following my program if you're just configuring a bunch of things, because you're basically trying to turn yourself into a cloud engineer, not a solution architect. It's exactly the opposite of what we want you to do. So please, please, please come to class. Come to class, follow the program, and get hired like all our other students do. But the saddest thing for me is when somebody buys the course and doesn't come to class. And the reality is people think they know what they need, but they have no idea what they need unless they've worked in the job. You know, I had no idea what a nurse practitioner did when I was a paramedic. I thought I knew, but I didn't know until I had the job. I thought I knew what an architect was when I was told, Mike, you're now a network architect. And I went to go configure something and I almost got fired. I mean, and it was like, whoa. So the point is you've got to know what the job is. So please follow our plan. You paid for it. Please come to class. Come back to class. We'll get you there. Chris, let's go to the next one. Do we ever recommend a recruiter for cloud architect in the UK? We have recruiters in the UK. Here's the thing, Kate Phillips, with our students. Once you do our resume tuning, it's not, do I have a recruiter? It's you'll be fighting them off. I mean, truly fighting them off. Fighting them off. My students' biggest problem is as follows. Well, after they do our resume training, telling the recruiters, I'm not ready yet, but can work together in the future. So you're not going to have any problem there. So we've got lots of people that we work with, but it's more about having the right profile. When your profile is right, hiring managers and recruiters come to you, but they don't just come to you with random nonsense. They come with you for the things that actually match your profile, which will be quite a lot. And so much so that I'm actually doing a LinkedIn and resume workshop. It'll be a 4-hour course. It's $99, and I made it cheap for a reason. If you go to a resume writer, they don't know what a cloud architect is, unfortunately. So they're going to make something totally unrelated to the job. And it's going to look beautiful, but what ultimately happens here is as follows. It's got to be relevant to the audience. So we looked at what advertisers do. We have lots of experience. And like Delray Bat that was here yesterday, he says to me, he says, Mike, I asked him, did you apply for any jobs? And he says, of course I didn't. He said, I got 3 offers as a cloud security architect within 1 year in your program, but I didn't apply for them. I said, how'd you get them? He said, as soon as you did our resume workshop in the course, guess what? I was bombarded every single day. There's a student of mine, Robert Welch, he gets bombarded every single day. Every day by recruiters. All my students do. So, you know, if you were in our program, you'd get that. Now, I'm also going to tell you that we have that $99 resume workshop. And because we're so passionate about getting you the resume and making sure you can interview, my team is even offering 50% off of the interview program, which is, again, very cheap. compared to what we provide. I mean, typically it takes me 3 private interview sessions with somebody to do it on my own, and that's a good $1,200. And by producing a course that we can charge $200 for with off, you could literally learn how to get your resume done and how to interview for these programs for $200. But make sure you still have the skills. So kind of keep that in mind. And all my students, obviously, in my program will be attending this for free because we do this periodically. That's just what we do for them. But for this very small opportunity, because the environment's getting out there pretty bad, we wanted to give people skills to actually master the interview and know what needs to be on there. So do that, and you'll have recruiter after recruiter after recruiter knocking at your door all day long, harassing you in a good way. Mike Stepp, can you build a cloud architect career working remotely? Yes and no, and I'll explain to you. So I've been working remotely now for over 20 years. There was never a point for me to go to the office. Now, I will tell you this. You do have to meet with the customer. Now, it's a little worse for me because I wanted to live in Florida, and there's no Fortune 100 companies headquartered in Florida. Reality is there's no Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Florida. So living in Florida, I had to do a lot of travel. It's a little better for folks in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, but in Florida, we have to go to the office, and sometimes we travel, but that's okay. If you live in Kansas, you're going to be traveling. So we work remotely from anywhere in the world we want. In fact, Delroy has been in Granada for the last 2 months being paid by his company, and he was having a great time with it. So yes, we can work remotely, but understand that there are times you have to meet with the customer. So when you meet with the CEO, you're going to be in person. When you're negotiating deals, you're going to be in person. When you're going to be delivering some presentations, you're going to be in person, etc. So those are the kind of things that you need to do. So can you be remote? Yes, of course you can. Of course you can. Easily. But realize that travel is going to be part of the job because you're going to be meeting with clients. So you can work from home, travel to clients. And that's what I did for the last 20 years. And you don't have to travel as much as I used to, thankfully, these days. I am a data architect designing tables for, data warehouse applications. Your interest is in AWS data analytics and database specialties. Where should you start with? Aren't you doing the same thing right now? So the Millie, if you want to work in data analytics and data warehousing, it's the same thing on the cloud. Nothing's changed. The reality is this. The cloud providers, yes, we've got Amazon Redshift. Now, 87% of customers use 2 clouds. You can't use Redshift because it's proprietary. So what are you going to use? Redshift on one, somebody else's proprietary thing, and try and code it in between? It's nonsense. But you might use Postgres in both things. So if your whole goal is data architecture and you're already doing data architecture, you already know the job. You already know the job. Now, on the cloud, there are some special streaming services that you could use. For example, AWS has Kinesis, but Kinesis is proprietary. So in a multi-cloud environment for big data applications, you use Apache Kafka, which is the same thing that you do in the data center. So if you truly know how to be a data architect, it's the same thing on the cloud. All you got to learn is, okay, AWS has these proprietary services that match what you've always done. By the way, I'm probably never going to use these AWS proprietary services ever. I'm going to use the same things. So you don't need to do much. Now, in your case, not other people's case, since you're already doing the job, here's where the certification helps you. Hi, I'm a CCIE network, CCIE internet, CCIE Cisco certified and expert, and I am. My number is 7417. Now I want to work on a Juniper router. Hey, I don't need a certification. People will hire me. But if I wanted to do a basic certification with Juniper that says, I'm familiar with Juniper too, that's where a certification could help you. So sure, you could do a cloud certification to show that you know how to do your same job that you've done forever in the cloud. But that's the only time a certification is really going to help you. But you don't even need the certification to get the job. You're doing the same job already. So just keep doing the same thing. Reach out to recruiters, build your thing, optimize your resume, and you'll be good. Now, I will tell you this. If you want to earn more money as a data architect, Make sure your resume isn't just talking about PySpark and R and machine learning technologies, etc. Make sure that you talk about the transformation. What are the results of your data architectures? Did you do something that enabled the business to make better business intelligence? What business intelligence tools help the customer and how much? Did it reduce their expenses? Did it increase their sales, etc.? That is your thing. But again, there is no such thing. And here's the thing, AWS database specialties. AWS has proprietary databases, and they're amazing databases. Aurora, DynamoDB, and I'm going to tell you why you'll probably never use them in your life. They're proprietary. So if I need a NoSQL database, wow, is my read traffic heavier than my write traffic? Yes, I'm going to use Apache Cassandra. Is my write traffic? Yeah, more write traffic than read traffic, Apache Cassandra. Hey, wait, now I got a lot of read traffic. Maybe I use MongoDB. And that's what the reality is. I need a big data environment. Sure, AWS has this proprietary Aurora, and it's a good database. But I can only use it on AWS. Wait, 2 clouds needed for everything. Can't use it. Throw it away. What I can use is the Oracle database, the Microsoft SQL database, because you can put them everywhere. Now you could use MariaDB and put it anywhere. For example, it's all the same. So there's nothing different than what you're doing. And that's where people get confused. They think they can learn a certification in another career. No, but you know the career already. So keep doing the same thing you're doing. You'll be on the cloud in no time. I love when I get these ones. These are easy. What skill set do you need to be an entry-level cloud engineer? Well, you need to understand the network and the data center in depth. Then, for a cloud engineer, not an architect, an engineer, you need extremely strong Linux skills because you're going to be doing, you need extremely strong Linux skills. And that means Linux administration, bash shell scripting, etc. And we, of course, offer this training. You're going to need some moderate Python skills. And yes, we train Python for the cloud engineers. You are going to need some infrastructure as code skills. So we teach that. You're going to need strong networking skills, and we teach that. You're going to need some bash shell scripting skills, and we teach that. So we offer everything in our cloud engineer career development program. My team can pop a link to that. We have one program that teaches all of these skills. All of these skills, and it's called our Cloud Engineer Career Development Program. And we're pretty specific on how we do our training. Got a training program for architects, Cloud Architect Career Development Training. Cloud Engineers, Cloud Engineer Career Development Program. So we wanted to make it really clear, very focused on your career. We teach someone's career very explicit. We do the exact opposite of what they teach in universities. Like I've got 2 master's degrees. Here's what happens when you go to school. Little this, little this, little this, little this, because they want you well rounded. Here's when it comes to getting hired. Sorry, you have no experience or capability. Wait, we teach you exactly what you need to know for the job. So you're so good at the job, employers hire you. And yes, we offer this training. We would love to work with you to help you get hired. You currently work as a DevSecOps engineer. Long-term, what do you think will pay more? I work at Accenture, where you can pivot after taking solutions architect after taking a course. Look, there's no comparison. A cloud architect with enterprise architect skills is paid at least 2 times what a DevOps engineer is with a couple of years experience. So there's no comparison. Engineering careers, and I love engineers. Engineering careers die at the $200,000 level for the most part. Architecture careers, 200, 300, 400, 500. So you're not even there. Plus, when you're going from engineering careers, you peak. With architecture careers, because you're doing so much business executive work and leadership work, do you want to be a VP? Sure, you get that. Do you want to be a CTO? Because you get that. Because as an architect, all you're going to be doing is interfacing with CEOs all day long. CFOs, CTOs, negotiating big deals. So there's not even a comparison between architecture courses and engineering courses, pay-wise. Not even in the same universe. Now, does that mean that everybody should become a cloud architect? No. What it means is as follows. If you like me and want to design, present, and sell and not touch technology, architecture is your best case. And I've got lots of people that work at Accenture and Bearing Point and Capgemini, etc. exceptional. And then next, so yes, and we would love to teach you and help you pivot. We'd be honored to do so. Can we just address real quickly the CCIE one? I saw it popped in last. George Carey. So I'm going to tell you, I'm a CCIE, my number is 7417. I will tell you that to me, I view the CCIE as entry-level networking. And here's the reason why. When I did my CCIE 20 years ago, back when it was a really hard 2-day exam, it was only after that I got to learn networking, when I realized exactly how much I didn't know. So as a CCNA, I thought I knew it all. As a CCNP, I started to realize networking's big. As a CCI, I went, oh my God, this is how much I don't know. Now, George, I spent 10,000 hours on just BGP after becoming a CCI, and that's when I learned networking. And I'm going to tell you right now that the CCI for many of us is the start. Only after the CCI are we good to go. George, I'm also going to tell you that I've worked with many CCIEs. And generally speaking, what's taught in the CCIE is about 90% of the networking you need to know for the cloud, 80 to 90%. It really is. And I will tell you, I had a CCIE, his name was Joe Millen. I have a couple CCIs too. Imran is one of them. But so when I worked with Joe Millen, he came to me, and 3 weeks later, he had the opportunity to interview for AWS. So we did some quick, conversion of Cisco to AWS, and he was hired by as a senior solutions architect by AWS within 3 weeks after that, within my program. So he was a special case. The CCIE is an excellent thing. It's my favorite certification in the world, but no, it's not going to teach you all of it. No certification teaches you all of it. None of them. Chris, we can go to the next one. Lambert, how much is the course? The course is $999. My team is running a promotion that's 30% off, which makes it $700, which is about 600 Great British pounds. You're preparing for the SAA, but still get to an architect even after the exam. So you could do all the exams in the world, and nobody will hire you as a cloud architect or a solution architect. Here's the thing. Certifications are the name of a service and how to configure that service. Architects design, present, and scale. So the reality is it's such a different job. So that's why I created this course, because I interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people and asked them basic design questions. None of them knew. Now, they all knew the name of a service and how to configure that service, but none of them knew anything about architecture. So, I mean, the certified solution architect professional is about 5% of what you need to be hired as a solution architect. So, with us, we would teach you the other 95%, plus that 5% as well. But that's why we created it. Do we provide placements? Mohit, we've gotten over 100 people hired or so in the last year. We give our people the tools to be placed. Sure, recruiters call me constantly and I make references and it goes well. But really the thing is, like I could give you dinner and say, here's your dinner, and you'd be fed for the night. I could teach you how to build your LinkedIn profile and your resume profile, and build your career and what to learn and how to manage your career. That every day you get people reaching out to you. I need to hire you. And then it's up to you to go on the interviews and win, because we teach you the skills to get hired and win. So, it's that. All of my students get hired. All of them that don't quit. Now, buying my course and not coming to class, nobody's getting hired. I can promise you right now. Buying my course and not watching the videos or doing the assignments, if you're in a non-live residence, is not getting anybody hired. Doing the work will get you hired. So our hire rates are pretty much this. 100% or nearly 100% of the people that complete our program requirements get hired. Now that means they have to do the work. Now, what do I mean by enabling it to be close to 100%? I let people stay in the program until they're hired, or a year. And nobody needs a year. So if somebody's in my program for 4 months and they're not ready, or 5 months and they're not ready, and 9 months and they're not ready, they stay in the program. And as long as they keep doing the work, they'll be hired if they get there. But it only works for people that do the work. So I do have people that drop out, like And that's why I said people that complete the requirements, almost always they get hired. Dropping out will not get anybody there. You have to put in the work. But the people that do the work are getting hired. And we keep them in the program for up to a year until they're hired. So we know that everybody's going to get hired, or at least the majority of the people that do the work. Now, if somebody drops out, they're not going to get hired. Someone that doesn't work, they're not going to get hired either. So of the people that wear the work, they're all getting placed and easily hired. Yes, we help people get all the time. Like I said, last night, you can see our video. Delroy, he's hired. He's got an associate degree, and he had no experience, but he's got a great cloud architect job. Again, Romanik Ivan Tambo that's working at AWS. Last job was a waiter. Coyote's now hired by AWS. He was a college student. Delroy last job was at Nordstrom in the shoe department, and now he's working as a cloud architect for the world's biggest bank. And he's incredible, smart. So why am I mentioning this? If the right training, of course, getting hired is nothing. It's nothing. With the wrong training, it's impossible. What type of architects are the highest paid? Hi, Anthony. It's good morning to see you. The people that are the least technical and the most businessy. I hate to say this. But the really techie architect is the lowest paid. The one that's got the most CXO relevancy, the most leadership skills, the most executive presence, the most business acumen. That could be $200,000 or $300,000 more than someone that's a techie every year for the rest of their life. So here's what I typically, I'll tell you the continuum. At the bottom right, we've got the cloud engineers, and I love them. They're the smartest people of the bunch when it comes to tech. And here's the thing. Those people are the hardest working and lowest paid. Next up the list, you've got the technical architect, which is an engineer. Lowest paid are the architects. Next up the list, you've got the solution architect that gets paid more than the technical architects, and good, upwards of good $200,000, even $300,000 if they're really good. And then comes the cloud architect. They're 50% business and 50% tech, potentially a little better earnings than solution architect with the bigger business value. Now, the enterprise architect is 80% executive, 20% technical. Now, this is director level or VP level, etc. No, those are the people we're talking about. These are the people that earn the most money. This is my background. I've done all the architect roles. And Chris, can we address James Foreman's content real quickly? Getting the job isn't hard, it's maintaining it that's hard. No, not at all. So James, I've coached people for 20 years. I've only had one person ever that was laid off, and none have been fired. And this person that was laid off got a $100,000 plus severance and had a $300,000 job within a week. I've never had anybody that got laid off. Here, because we train people for the right skills. If you are energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the work, if you've got good social skills, good leadership skills, good executive presence, and are a team player, you're not getting laid off and you're not getting fired. It's easy to keep the job, assuming you're competent. Now, what happens is when people are not competent, sometimes they fake their way through an interview. They're getting fired. It's just a matter of when. But I've never had anybody that I know about that I coached in the last 20 years ever not maintain their job, ever, because they had the right skills. And James, I'm going to go there. So what happens when we get people that try to learn everything? I'm going to get 10x AWS certified. And then what they know, truthfully, is nothing about nothing. Their depth is so weak that they can't do anything. And they make extreme errors, etc. Extreme errors. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's what it takes. You've got to be good at it, good, strong skills, etc., etc. Chris, you can go to the next one. And I'm good till 11 because we've got the boot camp today. Melvin, you are new to the cloud. Where should you start? Well, it all depends on the job you want. So that's the determination of what job you want. If you want to be a cloud architect, the best place to start is with us. You want to be a cloud engineer, we can start you from scratch. But, there's that. Now, our programs are not like those certification programs that you'll hear about. I basically looked at the 3 biggest certification programs out there, and I interviewed 1,000 people from those programs, and not a single one were hireable for anything. No, they were all certified. They all knew the name of the service and how to configure it, but they couldn't work. So keep that in the back of your mind. So where you should start, either learn the things that I told you, join the webinar tomorrow and tell us your career, and I will spend an hour teaching you all the things that you need to learn to be an architect, a network architect, for example. I'm sorry, a cloud architect. The cloud architect's the new network architect. And if you want to be a cloud engineer, I will answer your questions on Zoom. You can come off mute, but we can easily get you there. But you're not going to get there via certifications. I can promise you that. Certifications are icing on the cake. You need the cake. Chris, I'm going to go to the next one. Is it possible to get a remote job from India as a cloud architect after completing your course? In India, there's very limited scope for architects. Well, we get people hired in India all the time. And very recently, I was asked to support a client in Japan from the US. So what did I do? Called my best friend Nagaraja over there in Bangalore and said, hey, this is a $300,000 job per year. Do you want it? And that's the key. So yes, you can work remotely, but you can also work in other parts of the world as well. We've got people hired in India all the time. James Foreman, I love programming, building apps, and I love cloud tech. What is the best tech job I can do with both? What would you like to do? What do you want to do? Do you want to design, present, and sell? Do you want to code and configure? What do you want to do? And then we can determine out what the jobs are. You don't pick what you can do based upon what you've done in the past. I just showed you 4 examples of people that had 0 tech background and got cloud architect jobs. And the key is, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Do you want to build systems? Do you want to be a software engineer? Because you can still do that. Do you want to be a DevOps engineer? What do you want to do? Do you want to design systems? What you're asking right now is, this is what I ate yesterday for dinner. What can I do tomorrow? They're not related. Related things are, what would you like to do? And then let's fill in the skills to get you there. So that's the question. Mike, which airplane should I take? I don't know. Do you want to go to Sao Paulo, Brazil? Do you want to go to Cape Town, South Africa? Do you want to go to Athens, Greece? It determines where you're there. What do you want to do? Tell me that, and I would love to help you. What does a security architect do? They design the security solutions. So meet with a customer, figure out their security pain points, determine how they should architect it. So they design a blueprint, just like all architects. So what kind of IDS, IPS systems, what kind of next generation firewalls do we need? What kind of identity and access management we need? What do we need to do to the servers to make them solid, for example? And for example, so there's that. And then, how do we create a security policy? What for the people? What kind of training is necessary for the people to make sure that they don't click on that phishing email? What kind of social engineering training is needed to keep people from being social engineered by hackers? What kind of encryption strategy should we use? What kind of, hey, we've got all these logs coming in. Do we want to stream the logs into a Kinesis and then use a visualization tool like Tabula to see what's going on? Do you want to take these logs and run a machine learning algorithm to try and do some AI on the logs to basically lock our systems in real time? That's what they do. They design, present, and sell. We don't touch the technology ever. There is no architect that touched the tech. So for example, when someone says like James Foreman, and I'm answering this as the second time as you, I'd like to build apps from beginning and the end and build the architecture. You can't. You can. You'll be fired in your first week, I promise you. You either can design the building or you can build the building, but you can't do both at the same time. Not only will you go crazy, you will be fired in the first week. And here's the reason, James. Tonight, go outside. I want you to go outside at night. And I want you to look at the sky. Look at the moon, look at the stars, look at everything in the big picture. That's architect, the end to end. Now then, I want you to take out a telescope or binoculars and I want you to zoom in on the moon. And all you see, what are you going to see? The moon. When you're an architect, you need to see the sky. When you try to build it, you're in the engineering world, you're going to only see the moon. What's going to happen and why you'll be fired in the first month is as follows. I almost got fired right in the beginning of my career. I was asked to design a global network, and there was an outage, and I wanted to go configure the BGP. It was like a thick, juicy steak to me. I configured the BGP, and you know what I missed? A detail. And that detail caused an 8-hour outage. It cost millions of dollars of damage because I was crazy enough to try and configure BGP. Now, my management made it clear to me, you will never, ever touch the technology as an architect, or you'll be demoted to engineer. And I never touched the technology again. That was 25 years ago. So, James, you got to tell me what you want. Do you want to design, present, and sell, or do you want to build? If you want to build apps, build apps. It's just identical building the apps on the cloud and off the cloud. Nothing changed. If you want to design an architecture, because we don't build an architecture, we design it. It's a blueprint. It's a document. It explains how the tech works. You're trying to do two different careers. You can't fly the airplane and be a doctor in the hospital at the same time. So please tell me which one you'd actually like to do, and then we can get you there. Chris, let's go to the next one. Teal, thanks, Chow. Interesting. Do you learn all about the cloud brands together or together how the cloud is taught? Okay, Teal, I'm going to make this very clear to you. We teach the cloud. So if I teach you how object storage works, how to use it, how to architect it, how to design it, it's completely irrelevant whether it's Google Cloud Storage, Microsoft Blob, AWS S3, or some kind of object storage in your data center. When you know what it is, you can work on all the cloud. If you don't know what it is, you can't work on any cloud because you can't migrate what you don't know. If you understand containers and container orchestration, that same Kubernetes cluster that you use in your data center is the same Kubernetes cluster that you use in AWS, Google, and Azure. So you got to know the cloud. Now, sure, we provide the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional Training and the Azure Solution Architect Expert Training, so you know that. So you get one of the two certifications. But if you know the cloud, now, TL, when you learn to drive a car, first car I had was a Honda. Loved it, great car. The next car I had was a Nissan. The next car I had was a Toyota. I did not get special training for each one of these things. Now, if I did insanity training, which is what your certification providers did, and said, this is an elastic vector rotational changer, and someone else said, this is a cloud-based minute of angle vector reducer, and somebody else said, and this is about as stupid as the way the cloud is being taught right now, a something-based angular rotational something, we'd be talking three separate languages. Now, I said, here's what a steering wheel is. Here's what AWS calls that steering wheel. Here's what Azure calls that steering wheel. Here's what Google steering wheel is. You can work on any cloud anywhere, anytime. So we teach you the cloud, and then you know them all. And that's when someone says, hey, I want to do data analytics on the cloud, and I say, you're already doing it. It's the same job. Nothing's changed. It's just where's your virtual machine hosted? So we teach you the cloud. And sure, we provide expertise on Azure and AWS in our training program. We also will have all of our students design and build their own cloud. Wait, what? We have to make our own cloud in the program? Well, yeah. And here's the reason. We architects don't touch the tech. But you got two interviews. Interview one, I set up an S3 bucket. And mind you, I taught my friend's 8-year-old daughter how to set up an S3 bucket in less than 5 minutes. And nobody's paying her $200,000 a year to do it. My students say, I built the cloud. Huh, what? Well, I VPN'd into the data center. I built an OpenStack cloud in the servers and provided this, this, and this. They know the cloud. Once you design and build the cloud, you know all clouds. So keep that in the back of your mind. We teach the cloud. Chris, you want to go to the next one? Malvin, what's the difference between your course and Ed Cloud Guru? Well, I'll tell you this. I initially bought 3 courses for someone. I was asked by my friend to say, could you help my kid get hired? And I said, yes. So I bought him the 3 best-selling certification courses. And obviously, this is a certification provider. And I bought him the 3 certification courses. Now, I told them that I would spend 2 to 4 hours with him coaching him every Friday until he was hired. Now, what happened is my student went through these certification courses, and after 3 days, he called me up and he said, Mike, I set up an AWS S3 bucket in an EC2 instance, and then he proceeded to say, what is it? I said, what do you mean, what is it? It's an architect course. Why are you configuring anything? And he said, well, this course proclaims that we learn by doing. And I said, okay, learn by doing. Now let's talk about architecture. I said, Nathan, what is a virtual machine? How does the hypervisor work? What goes on? And he said, huh? And I said, okay, you just talked about object storage. Could you explain to me what is object storage? And he went, huh? Etc. And I said, how can you design something? He said, that's why I'm calling you. So Melvin, because of that, we did the following. I said, nobody's going to get hired for this program. And Melvin, I was so sure, I interviewed 1,000 people from these 3 common programs. I'm not going to mention their names, but they're all in that South Pacific region, So I interviewed the people from all these programs, 1,000 of them, not a single one knew anything about system design. And I'm going to tell you right now, Melvin, people do these courses for a year, they spend a ton of money, and in the end, they can't get anything because an architect doesn't learn by doing, they design, present, and sell. So there's that. So I created my course in response to these programs to get these graduates hired because I knew they had no chance on their own. Now, in our programs, you have access to a 25-year industry expert. And we do live classes 3 times per week. And you can ask questions in the live classes. We teach you how to interview, negotiate a higher salary, deliver the presentations, become CXO relevant, etc. So we teach you everything you needed to be hired. All that teaches you is the name of the service and how to configure that service. And here's what, as an architect, you'll never do it in your life. So that's why I created this program. My students do it every single day. We had students do live classes. They ask questions in live classes. You can't do this with any of these programs. We help you build a career plan for your exact career. These programs don't do that. We have a network of people all across the world that collaborate and work together. These programs can't do that. And we get you hired and they won't. So that's the difference. So, like I said, if you want a job, we can help you get hired. We can teach you what you need to know for the job. We'll improve your professional brand, your personal brand. Your relationships will get better from the emotional intelligence. And you'll earn far more out of us than any other training program out there. For another thing my students have done recently, what I did is I wanted my students to be seen, to have name recognition, brand recognition. Remember, cloud architects design, present, and sell, and writing is important. Right now, my students are actually working together on to build the Google Professional Cloud Architect book, which we're going to give away completely free very soon, all over the world. So my students are doing this. I've got my students collaborating on a project in Africa with me called Cloud Heroes Africa that are teaching things so they can then say to cloud computing instructors. And they're helping those in need. So as a company, we do a lot of good things for the world, and I use that to get my students name recognition, brand recognition. So you're not going to be co-authoring documents with them, but you probably will with me if you're in our program. Nobody's going to help you build your brand, and I can promise you this, nobody's going to be reaching out to you from them, but they will be reaching out to you from our program, and you'll be getting hired. So get certified and not be hireable, get hired. Now, I'm going to also tell you this, Melvin. The average cloud architect earns $600 a day, and a good one easily earns double that. So every day you're doing nonsense, irrelevant training, you're losing $600 a day. So by us, we'll get you hired better, faster, and cheaper than anybody else in the world, or a higher seller, as a rule. While we're at it, we don't do it all the time, but I had my team come up with a 30% discount on every single program we have right now. If you want to become a cloud architect or cloud engineer. So 30% off to help you with the inflation, because I want you to increase your salary and get hired. Increase your potential, use coupon code potential. We're up to the last question. The next question will be the last one. I have time for it today, but join us in the free boot camp afterwards. Okay, Chris. You worked in sales for like 2 years and have BG in communications. I don't know what that means. I think personally the cloud solution architect fits your personality more. Okay. Like you said, engineering has a cap you mentioned, easily 200 or less. The 200, 300, and 400K is generally speaking, all good jobs are base and bonus or base and commission, especially architect jobs. They're more base and bonus. Some cases they're base and commission. The places that have big commissions, wow, they can pay some people real money. But generally it's base and bonus. And what happens is, most companies have a similar base. The base is going to range from $100,000 to $200,000 a year for the base in all these jobs, like good architect jobs. Now, when you're a techie architect, you get a 10% bonus. When you're a good business person with a techie bonus, then you get a 30% bonus. Once you start getting into becoming a great architect with extreme business acumen, now you're getting, 50, 60 plus % bonus. And if you really crush it number-wise, you're going to do more. So every job in today's world is that, which is why, pay transparency. I want to see what the job pays. Really, it's a problem. Because if you bring in $1 billion of sales, the company can pay you $1 million a year and they're still making money on you. Whereas if somebody else brings in $100,000 of sales, they're getting fired because they're not good enough to close business. So somebody that brings in $50 million of sales is going to be hired and paid very well, but nowhere close to the person that brings in $200 million in sales. So yes, it's that, but we generally don't have a quota. It's not like we get fired if we don't meet our number that month. Now, I said for $100,000, and the reason is if an architect can't do $100,000 of sales in a year, when they're bidding on projects that are $100 million, it means the architect can't do anything. So architect jobs are the greatest jobs in the world. They pay nicely. The quality of life is better. You work the least. But you know what? Some people like to be hands-on. And you can't be hands-on as an architect. And when you try, you get in trouble. So the key is do what you love. Just do what you love. Find out what you love, and it all works itself. I'm going to close on this. I think Mark Twain said it. Make your vacation your vocation, and you'll never work a day in your life. When I left internal medicine, I worked hard in internal medicine. When I moved to tech, look, I put in 60, 80-hour weeks throughout my career. But you know what? I got to tell you this. I never worked. It was just fun. I just loved it. So I'm going to close on that. So join us completely free for the AWS Cyber Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp today. And make sure you join us on Thursday for the How to Get Your Cloud Architect Job webinar. It's tomorrow. And if you really want to get hired, please take advantage of our 30% off discount. Take care, everybody.